Hello, hello, hello. It's Mary Kay Smooth. Did you miss me? I was gone Friday. I had a wedding. And Monday, I had a distressed friend who lost his mom. And so I was on the phone for like 2 hours. Um, actually, that's another story. But sometimes he works in a different way. I don't want to say mysterious, but I want to say different. While I was at IBM, uh, my best friend from IBM, Lori Arthur, you hear me talk about her time and time again. Um, Lori was a large systems mainframe salesperson for IBM, and she went to a conference, and we didn't often meet Black decision makers at our clients for IBM because I was in a large account office while Lori had been in a large account. She was in my office, and then she went to the small accounts office, but we still didn't meet many. In her mainframe, she absolutely hardly met any Black decision makers. And in my large account office, I didn't either. And so Lori she was in New York. And while she was in New York, there was like a conference. And there was a Black guy that was a data center manager and his sidekick, um, I guess the assistant data center manager. And he told her that they had told him he was getting a new person that was managing his account. And it was me. So Lori said, I know her. And I think they put him in my area because he wasn't really a large account. When I say large account, I had ADP, which was the largest account in the region. I had Exxon, which was one of the largest accounts in IBM at that time. Um, so he didn't fit in my client set, but it didn't matter because I took care of everybody that was my client. So I made arrangements. Lori told me, and she told him who I was. I made arrangements to meet him, and it wasn't many, maybe 2 or 3 weeks after that, his grandmother died, and the funeral was here in Newark. I mean, the wake at Wiggum's Funeral Home, which um, Wiggum, Charlie Wiggum, the founder, which now it's run by Carolyn, his daughter, um, was a deacon, not a deacon, a trustee. He was the trustee president, believe at one point at my grandfather's church. So my grandfather knew him well, and that's where my mother and father, who did um, their funerals, and my grandparents, both sets actually. So he asked me to come by the wake, and I didn't really know him that well. So I took my mother. Don't laugh. Yep, I took my mommy. And when we got inside, my mother looked in the casket and she said, "That's Ophelia Howard, your grandmother's one of her best friends." She said, "What is Glenn's mother's name?" And I said, "Mommy, I don't know because I don't know him like that." So she said, "Well, ask Glenn what is his mother's name." Well, he told me his mom's name was Dolores. And my mother started smiling and cackling. And so, when we talked later, I found out that my grandfather, had baptized Glenn's mom and him. And his grandmother was a long-time metropolitan member from the 40s. That's around the time when my grandfather first came to New Jersey. So then my mother told me, when you get home, ask your father, who is Dolores Howard. So I did. And my father started smiling. And I said, Daddy, why are you smiling? So Daddy said, do you remember when when I retired at my retirement party, the superintendent, Eugene Campbell, mentioned that he used to stand outside a girl's house, and I paid him to make a noise when her mother was coming. He said, that was Dolores. I said, Daddy, you didn't, did you? He said, no, Maria, I didn't. He said, I did take her to her prom, though. I said, Daddy, you Don Juan Johnson. You sure? He said, no, Maria, I didn't. And I said, Mommy, why you smiling? She said, it was before me. I have nothing to say. So I know that if my grandmother and her mother were friends like that, then the two of them had something they wanted to happen. But my father said he didn't. He just it didn't work like that. So that But he said, I need you to do me a favor. Don't say nothing to that young man. Let his mother tell him. Okay. He said, I need you to do that. So I did. I didn't say nothing. It took 3 years for her to tell him. And he came running up on me talking about I could have been your brother. And I said, no, because it was two different eggs. But anyway, as the story goes on, me and Lori became friends with Glenn. And we convinced him to leave the bank where he was the data center manager and come to IBM. He had paper, and when I say paper, I mean his degrees and stuff, that distinguished him, and none of the high flyers in our office had a Harvard degree in data processing. And he could spell Microsoft at that time. So we got him to come over, and Glenn, he took off like a rocket. And I do mean like a rocket. Glenn is a brilliant guy. He worked on he was a network architect for IBM, so he designed networks He was on the team that designed the network for New York, New York Board of Ed. That's the largest school district in United States. 1 million students, 80,000 teachers. He worked there, must be 2 or 3 years. He installed the first computers in police cars at LAPD, the second largest police department. Um, when 9/11 happened and the Dow went down, the stock market, for those that don't know what the Dow is or aren't familiar with it being called the Dow, uh, he went in and they moved the work over to the Board of Education system. And Glenn went in for 12 hours to get that done so that the stock market could come back up. Um, what else did Glenn do? Glenn was, I believe, the director of innovative technology for NYPD after he left. He left IBM after 20 years, and now he is strategy something for New York MTA, the largest transportation authority in the country. This guy is high up, and uh, he's very good, and we're friends. We have Glenn is a geek, and I'm a geek, and over the years, Glenn is also a classically trained pianist, and his mom was a sculptist. Very beautiful sculptures. Um, and then to drag along another metropolitan person from my grandfather's days, Donald Parker, who is an accomplished musician, um, MD or musical director for many stars in the R&B as well as gospel area. He doesn't like the road, so he does a lot of studio stuff with them. And he is a musical director for the cathedral in Perth Amboy, uh, where Donald Hilliard is the head of the church there. So between the two of them, Lord, it's a ride. Um, Donald, we've met quite a few people with Donald, and I can remember Donald's son is almost more accomplished than his dad in a different way. He is phenomenal with the synthesized music. Stevie Wonder really started that, and Donald's son, Eric Parker, he's traveled with Stevie Wonder, Simply Red, Britney Spears. I mean, yeah, the father and the son, it definitely, the musical prowess flowed in their bones. And the golf tournament, the BF Johnson golf tournament, um, Donald and the band used to play for us for the post play reception. And I can remember, oh God, what is her name? She just passed away. She was the sister on Stella got her groove back with not with Whoopi Goldberg, with what's her name? Oh God, I can't even remember her name. 9/11, 911, the Black Star, Courtney Vance's wife. What love got to do with it? She was her sister in Stella got her groove back, and she came to our golf tournament, and Mayor James challenged her to sing. He asked her to sing, and she gave Donald the name of a song and the key, which Donald They didn't know the song, but Donald led the band, and they let her start singing. They hit the keys, and all of a sudden she was in a song. And it was a swing jazzy song. And Donald, that's what I mean. Donald can do anything with a piano, a keyboard. You could practically give him a jar and a spoon, and he can make it sound good. So it, when Glenn lost his mom, and we're pretty sad. I had to have that conversation with him that you have to have when you lose someone like your mom or your dad, is that no regrets. As long as you can get through it with no regrets, you have um, you have really done something, because that's the thing that'll really tear you up, is if you let one of your loved ones pass away and you have regrets. So, and when I say regrets, I mean, like, did I take care of them? Did I do the best that I could do for them? So, because that, if you have no regrets, you can, it will never be easy. You will be sad a lot for a long time, but it could be a whole lot worse if you have regrets. And you guys know, I talk about my parents a lot, but when I took care of them, when my mother was sick and then passed, and then daddy, we thought we had time, but we didn't. God saw it differently. So I say that to say, get your stuff in order. And if you have parents that are still with you, tape them, talk to them, ask them questions about family history and stuff, and tape the stories. You'll cherish it later, and you'll be able to pass it on to others in your family. I have tapes of daddy that I'm so proud that I have them, and I have only one of my grandfather and one of mommy. So try to do that while they're alive, because once they're gone, girl, poof, it is done. And you'll see that the Mary Kay is still working. I feel like a bump is coming on my nose, so I got to work on that. What I do is I put the acne serum right on the spot, and it comes. And I know you go, she's 66 years old. Yes, you still get a bump here and there. I had one right here, but it's on its way gone because I put the stuff on it. And I'm sorry I missed you all. I did miss you. But I had to go to Camille. One of my mother's relatives got married. She was in her family. She's the first one to go to college. She went to Lincoln. Mommy is so proud of her. Um, and she married a young man, and Camille's in her later 30s, but she was taking care of her family. As one of my first cousins, Minnie. It's her granddaughter, and so that's the South Carolina relatives of my mother. And I met one of my mother's cousins, daughter, and you're gonna laugh, but she said, Mama, you know my mother. Everybody knows my mother. Her name was Kudaboo. Now y'all could laugh at my little Bama cousins' names, but that's all right. We had fun going down there sometimes. My sister didn't really like it because it was country. Well, you know, somebody named Cuda Boo is country, okay? So I can't. We used to, oof, we used to laugh. Me and Sharon are the names. I ain't gonna lie to you. It was hysterical. Some of the names, but yeah. So I'm gonna see you guys on Friday. I'm off tomorrow. Isn't that wonderful?